There are places in this world where maps aren't just drawn with political borders, but with the ink of ancient myths and unshakable faith. Welcome to Nepal, a land where geography defies logic and where time itself seems to have pulled over just to catch its breath. Tucked between two of Asia's giants, Nepal isn't just a buffer state, it's a threshold. Within a mere 120 miles, the Earth surges upward in a moment of sheer geological pride, rising from tropical jungles at sea level to the very ceiling of the world. This is a place where oxygen is a luxury, and humans are but temporary guests in the presence of the eternal. But the true soul of Nepal isn't found in the height of its $8,000-meter peaks. It's found in a different kind of rhythm. While the rest of the world is locked in a frantic race against the Gregorian calendar, Nepal lives by the Bikram Sambat, a timeline that runs more than half a century ahead of the modern world. In Nepal, the past isn't a memory. It's a living, breathing entity. You see it in the steady hand of a craftsman carving soul into raw wood. You hear it in the prayer wheels spun by fingers worn smooth by time. And you feel it in the seamless blend of Hinduism and Buddhism, two faiths flowing together like twin rivers into a single sea of spirituality. They say you come to Nepal for the mountains, but you stay for the people. So begin this journey not with your feet, but with an open heart. Because Nepal isn't just a country you visit, it's an experience that rearranges who you are. The Himalayas, the vertical empire. Nepal does not merely possess mountains. It is defined by a vertical empire that dictates the very limits of human existence. As you move north from the lush lowlands, the Earth begins to surge upward in a violent geological tantrum, culminating in the Himalaya, the massive, frozen spine of the world. This is a landscape where nature doesn't just provide a backdrop, it exerts a supreme, unforgiving authority. In this realm of thin air, Nepal guards 8 of the planet's 14 peaks that surpass the legendary $8,000 mark. But to understand these mountains, you must look past the postcards. At these altitudes, the atmosphere is a thief. It strips away your oxygen, your warmth, and your pride. This is the doorstep of the death zone, a place where the human body begins to break down, and every breath becomes a conscious, hard-won victory. Yet, for the Sherpa people, this brutal terrain is home. They are the silent architects of the heights, moving with a genetic grace that defies the harshness of the elements. Along the trails, you encounter mani stones, ancient boulders hand-carved with sacred mantras. These are the spiritual anchors of the mountains. You are taught to always pass them on the left, a ritual of respect that acknowledges the mountain's energy is far greater than your own. In the shadow of Everest, or Sagarmatha, as the locals reverently call her, life is stripped to its rawest essentials: calories, warmth, and the strength of the person standing next to you. There is no room for the ego here. When a whiteout storm strikes, your expensive gear matters far less than the centuries-old wisdom of a stone shelter built by ancestors. The paradox of the Himalaya is that the highest point on Earth is also its most humbling. Thousands arrive every year with the intention of conquering the summit, but they soon realize the mountain cannot be tamed. It can only be endured. You don't find greatness on these peaks. You find humility. You learn that survival isn't about brute force, but about a quiet, stubborn resilience. The mountains do not speak, but through their deafening silence, they teach you that while man may leave a temporary footprint in the snow, the stone and ice have the final word. Kathmandu, the dance of life and death. Leaving the silent peaks behind, you descend into the chaotic, beating heart of the nation, the Kathmandu Valley. If the Himalayas are the spirit of Nepal, Kathmandu is its raw, unfiltered soul. It is a sensory overload, a dizzying labyrinth of ancient brick, tangled wires, and golden rooftops, where the medieval and the modern collide in a cloud of dust and incense. This is not a city of museums. It is a living stage where the sacred is woven into the mundane. In the center of this chaos lies a profound spiritual harmony. In the courtyards of Patan and Bhaktapur, Hinduism and Buddhism do not merely coexist, they breathe together. You will see a Hindu priest offering butter lamps at the base of a Buddhist stupa, a testament to a faith so deep it has no room for borders. The architecture itself tells this story. Thousands of intricate wood carvings on pagodas and windows, each telling a tale of gods and demons that have watched over these streets for centuries. But to truly understand the heart of Kathmandu, you must go to the banks of the holy Bagmati River, at the temple of Pashupatinath. Here, the veil between this world and the next is at its thinnest. On the stone ghats lining the river, public cremations take place in the open air. Smoke from the funeral pyres rises toward the sky, mingling with the laughter of children playing nearby and the chanting of saffron-clad sadhus. To a Western eye, it may seem jarring, but to a Nepali, it is the ultimate truth. Death is not hidden away in a basement or a quiet parlor. It is witnessed, honored, and accepted as a natural transition. There is a brutal beauty in this honesty. It reminds you that life and death are not enemies, but two sides of the same sacred coin. In Kathmandu, you realize that spirituality isn't found in a quiet retreat away from the world. It is found right in the middle of the noise, the grime, and the crowd. The city teaches you that everything is impermanent. The ancient temples may crumble in an earthquake, and the fire on the riverbank will eventually go out. But the cycle of faith and rebirth remains unbroken. You don't just visit Kathmandu, you collide with it. And in that collision, your perspective on what it means to be alive begins to shift. Upper Mustang, the forbidden realm. But as much as Kathmandu teaches you about the beauty of the crowd, there is another side of Nepal that demands absolute solitude. To find it, You must leave the incense-filled alleys behind and travel north, beyond the rain shadow of the giant peaks, to a place where the map feels like it's running out of ink. This is Upper Mustang, a high-altitude desert of ochre cliffs and wind-swept silence that was, until recently, a forbidden kingdom hidden from the rest of humanity. If Kathmandu is a vibrant dance of life, Mustang is a haunting monologue of stone. The landscape here doesn't look like the rest of Nepal. It looks like the surface of Mars, carved by centuries of relentless wind into surreal canyons and towering battlements. This is the ancient kingdom of Lo, a pocket of pure Tibetan culture that has remained frozen in time, protected by its own sheer isolation. The heart of this realm is the walled city of Lo Mantang. Stepping through its gates is like walking into a medieval dream. There are no neon signs here, only whitewashed mud brick houses and monasteries that smell of aged yak butter and old shadows. The people of Mustang, the Loba, have survived here for generations by striking a fragile bargain with one of the harshest environments on Earth. Their faith is etched into the landscape itself, not just in the monasteries, but in the sky caves carved high into vertical cliffs. These mysterious caverns, thousands of them, served as burial sites, dwellings, and meditation retreats for over 2,000 years, hanging like open wounds in the rock. In Mustang, you encounter a different kind of spirituality, one that is rugged, weathered, and intensely private. It is a place where the sky feels heavy and the horizon seems to stretch into eternity. There is a profound stillness here that forces you to confront your own insignificance. While the rest of Nepal is defined by its towering green mountains and rushing rivers, Mustang is defined by what is missing. There are no trees, no noise, and no distractions. This is the frontier of the soul. Mustang teaches you that even in the most desolate corners of the world, human spirit and devotion can carve out a kingdom. It is a reminder that some of the most beautiful things on Earth are not found in the lush valleys, but in the stark, uncompromising silence of the desert. Chitwan, the breath of the wild. But Nepal's story is not written only in stone and ice. If you travel south, leaving the barren plateaus of Mustang and descending from the clouds, the air grows heavy, sweet, and humid. Here, at the foot of the giants, the landscape undergoes a radical transformation. The gray and ochre of the north dissolve into an explosion of emerald green. This is the Terai, the lowlands, and at its heart lies Chitwan, a place where the mountains are replaced by a jungle that breathes with an ancient, prehistoric energy. In Chitwan, you realize that Nepal's power isn't just in its height, but in its wild, untamed diversity. The silence of the peaks is replaced by a symphony of the wild, the rustle of tall elephant grass, the call of exotic birds, and the slow, rhythmic flow of the Raptai River. This is the kingdom of the one-horned rhino, a creature that looks like a living relic of a lost era, moving through the mist with a quiet, armored majesty. But the true ghost of the forest is the Royal Bengal tiger. It is a presence that demands a different kind of respect than the mountains. While the Himalaya humbles you with its scale, the jungle sharpens your instincts. It reminds you that humans are not the masters of this land, but merely observers in a delicate, fierce balance of survival. For the Taru people who live along the forest's edge, this balance is not an abstract idea, it is part of everyday routine. At dawn, before the heat settles in, families step into the fields with simple tools, always scanning the tall grass for movement. Children learn early where it is safe to walk and when to return home. At night, meals are eaten close together, doors secured, and oil lamps left burning, not out of fear, but out of respect for the unseen life moving just beyond the village boundary. The Tharu have lived in harmony with these forests for centuries, crafting a life that respects the limits of the wild. Their relationship with the jungle is a quiet lesson in coexistence, proving that even in a land of tigers and rhinos, humans can find a home without conquering the land they depend on. In the southern plains, Nepal reveals its softer but equally powerful side. It is a reminder that the soul of this country is not only found looking upward at distant peaks, but looking forward through tall grass and fading light, where life, in its most raw and primal form, continues its eternal, unbroken cycle. Pashupatinath, the Circle of Eternity. As you leave the vibrant green jungles of the south and return to the banks of the sacred Bagmati River in Kathmandu, the journey takes its most intimate turn. Here stands Pashupatinath, the oldest and holiest Hindu temple in the city. But Pashupatinath is not a place of quiet prayer. It is a profound threshold where the noise of life meets the silence of death. In Nepal, these two forces do not compete. They dance together in a continuous, unbroken circle. Along the stone ghats that line the river, the air is thick with the scent of sandalwood, marigolds, and the heavy gray smoke of funeral pyres. This is where the physical journey of a Hindu ends. Public cremations take place in the open air, witnessed by families, pilgrims, and wandering sadhus with ash-covered skin. To an outsider, the sight of a body returning to the elements may be jarring, but here it is treated with a devastating, beautiful honesty. There is no attempt to hide the reality of our end. The Bagmati River flows slowly past the burning pyres, carrying ashes and offerings toward the Ganges. In this place, death is stripped of its terror. You see children playing near the smoke, and merchants selling flowers just steps away from the grieving. It is a powerful reminder that in the shadow of Lord Shiva, the destroyer and regenerator, death is not a full stop. It is a comma. It is the necessary clearing of the way for new life to begin. Standing on the bridge at Pashupatinath, watching the orange flames flicker as the sun sets, you realize that this is the heartbeat of Nepal. The mountains gave you a sense of scale. The jungles gave you a sense of vitality. But this riverbank gives you a sense of truth. It teaches you the ultimate lesson of the Himalaya, that everything, from the highest peak to the smallest blade of grass, is in a state of constant transition. To be in Pashupatinath is to accept your own impermanence, and in that acceptance, to finally find a strange, lasting peace. Conclusion: the echo within. After traveling from the frozen silence of the Himalayas to the humid heartbeat of the jungle, and finally to the sacred fires of the riverbank, you realize that Nepal is not a place you simply look at. It is a place that looks into you. It is a country that strips away the noise of the modern world until all that is left is the raw, essential truth of who you are. The mountains do not care about your titles. The rivers do not ask for your status. In the shadow of these giants, you learn the most difficult and beautiful lesson of all: how to be small. You learn that to be small is not to be insignificant, but to be a vital part of a much larger, much older story. It is a story told in the fluttering of a prayer flag, the turn of a wheel, and the steady, rhythmic breath of a land that has outlasted empires. As you prepare to leave, you find that the dust of Kathmandu and the cold of the high passes have settled into your bones. You don't leave Nepal the same person you arrived. You carry back a piece of its resilience, a fragment of its silence, and the newfound respect for the delicate balance between life and death. You realize that while you came here to see the world's highest peaks, what you actually found was a deeper valley within yourself. Nepal is an echo that stays with you long after the journey ends. It whispers that everything is fleeting, yet everything is eternal. And as the sun sets over the jagged horizon one last time, you understand that the true summit was never a destination on a map. It was the moment you learned to breathe in sync with the world around you.